All right, today I'm going to talk about how to get fitter for the summer, in a very basic way, and it's really designed for people like me and my clients who are like probably 35 plus, who want to get in good shape, want to improve their health, want to feel good, they want to fit in a bikini, the guys want to be comfortable taking their shirt off at the beach, all that good stuff, but they can't commit their whole life to fitness. All right, so they need simple things that aren't going to completely take over their life. So I'm going to talk about nutrition today. I'm going to talk about lifting weights, and I'm going to talk about how you can burn extra calories, so steps for cardio. So the first thing is let's talk about nutrition. Calories are king. If you eat less calories, your body will eventually burn fat. Um, the thing is, people don't always like to track calories, but if you've never done it, it can be really eye-opening because lets you um, it lets you see what you're actually putting into your bodies. Because if you've never tracked your calories, if you never weighed your food, and some people think it's extreme, but if you do it for a short period of time, it's extremely insightful because you're like, oh, I'm not eat. You could be like, because a lot of people will say things like, I'm barely eating, I'm not eating enough, but they've never really tracked calories, and they're not very sure about portion sizes, how many calories in certain portion sizes, so they really don't know. And oftentimes, if we take a deeper look, they're having more calories, more overall food than they actually think they are. So it's just really it can be really important if you've never done it, and even just doing it for a couple of weeks just to gain that insight and that awareness is super important. Um, so now there's a lot of calorie tracking apps like MyFitnessPal, but my favorite one is actually MacroFactor because it basically will customize your calories based on how your body weight changes on the scale and based on your goals, and this can be huge. Um, Now, if you don't want to do that, another popular way I like to do it for my clients is basically track your calories for 2 weeks, track everything you put in your mouth, and then also weigh yourself for 2 weeks, and then average that. So what happens is like if your average weight doesn't really go up, doesn't change, your average calories, that's probably your maintenance calories, meaning that if you eat that, you're probably not going to lose much weight, but you're not going to gain much weight either. Now, if you start losing weight, that is a calorie range that where you're in a caloric deficit, meaning that if you eat those calories for a long period of time, you probably lose fat. Now, if you start gaining weight, now that's going to be a caloric surplus. So that means you'll probably gain weight if you do that, which isn't necessarily a bad thing if you're trying to build muscle. Um, but that will take care of your calories. Um, Another thing I would say with like tracking calories, which I think is really important, it's an adjustment thing. You're gonna eat food and you're gonna go over your calories, and then that's just with the way it is. And like if what I find super helpful when I have trouble sticking with my calories is the day before I'll write down everything I want to eat, and it might change the next day, but just having some type of game plan of like this is how I'm gonna get my calories and stay underneath my calories is really helpful. Until you kind of get under control. Because when you don't know about like what's in calories, you might think, oh, this meal's not going to be too bad, and then it could be a lot higher than you think, and things like that. Now, if you're someone who doesn't want to track calories, this is where if you follow all the other nutrition stuff, you'll probably be very successful. Because like when you eat healthier stuff, when you eat the right stuff, you tend to eat less calories overall. And so if you don't, I would still recommend that you do track your calories at least for a short period of time. But if you're completely saying I'm not tracking my calories, I hate that shit. If you follow the other stuff, I think you're gonna be very successful. So the next thing is protein. Now, protein is really important because it's a building block of all tissue in your body. It's going to help you recover faster if you train. Um, it's also very satiating, meaning that like if you eat more protein, probably you have less hunger, less cravings. So it's really important. So what they say is about zero point 0.7 to 1 gram per lean body mass, but it's hard to know our lean body mass unless we do like a DEXA scan or like some type of body fat scan. But a lot of the body fat scans that we have access to are incredibly inaccurate. So you're much better just weighing yourself and being like, I'm gonna hit that much protein per day. If that's like a really high number, you might go like your lean, not your lean, your goal body weight. So say you're like 160 and you want to be 130. You might be like, my goal weight's 130, so I'm just gonna hit 130 grams of protein. Um, or if you're someone over 200 pounds, if you just probably hit 200 grams, you're probably good. So that's how you take care of your protein. And as far as protein foods are usually found in animal products. Animal products tend to be the best sources of protein because they have the most essential amino acids. So basically, protein gets broken down to these things called amino acids, and it's the building block of all tissue in your body. Um, Other sources of protein, like based proteins don't have all the important amino acids, but animal products do, which is why it's important to have high quality protein sources. So things like chicken, fish, seafood, steak, pork, um, eggs, um, even dairy stuff like cottage cheese and Greek yogurt if you like that stuff. And of course you can do protein shakes. Nothing wrong with protein shakes, but I know for myself, I tend to feel better if I get most of it from Whole Foods. And I know I train a lot of girls, and they tend to get bloated easily, especially from dairy products. So sometimes if you could get that from Whole Foods sources, you're probably better. But again, if you can tolerate protein shakes, it can make getting your proteins really easy. And I would probably spread this through the amount of meals that you eat. The issue is if you currently eat one time a day or two times a day, and say your goal protein is like 150 grams of protein, trying to get 75 grams of protein per meal can be tough, which is why eating 3 to 5 times a day is probably a little more helpful if you can do that. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is fruits and vegetables. So super important. You obviously know this, and people have known this for for years. But fruits and vegetables, especially if you have a goal of getting leaner, it's very satiating. And you combine that with protein. If you have enough protein, you're eating enough fruits and vegetables, you're probably fat loss is gonna be a ton easier. Now, if you're not getting that stuff and you're always hungry and you don't know why you can't lose weight, that's probably one of the reasons. Try to hit five servings of fruits and vegetables per day, and I say combined. So whatever you like to do. You don't have to eat like 10 full servings, but if you have five, you're probably getting enough. And it's great. These are great because they actually have water in them, so they help hydrate you, and that's going to help with the satiation effect, along with the fiber that has. It helps with the satiation effect, digestion, all that stuff. And it gives you a lot of the vitamins and minerals that your body needs to thrive too. Um, so if you don't like fruits and vegetables, what I'd probably do is commit to maybe just trying one new one a week, and see if you like it. And especially with vegetables, try like different ways of cooking it. Like I know for myself, I'm not a huge fan of broccoli, but if it's roasted, I like it better. If it's like sauteed in a pan, I tend to like it better. Like I tend to like vegetables better if it's roasted or sauteed versus if it's like boiled or something like that. So just make sure you give it a try and try to hit those 5 servings. Next thing is water. Staying hydrated is super important. Sometimes if you really if you don't drink that much water, and sometimes like people laugh at this, but if you don't drink enough water, you might just feel like you're hungry. But seriously, if you just drink more, you might not feel so like parched. Um, so hydration is super important. Usually, what I try to say is try to probably drink 60 ounces to 100 ounces of water. Usually I think like what I used to say is about half your body weight in ounces is a good thing to good way to start. But if you're peeing straight clear, it's you're probably drinking too much. If you have to pee so often, I used to think that was really good. But again, if it's clear, you're probably drinking too much, and you don't want to be. And when you do that, you tend to flush electrolytes that your body needs. But you don't want dark yellow either because that means you're probably not drinking enough. So like kind of in between those two is kind of a sweet spot. And the next one can be kind of like a funny tip, but don't eat like don't eat like an asshole. So if like going back to like if you didn't want to follow the calories, if you just do what's obvious, and one of the things that really frustrates me sometimes with like the fitness industry is like people will be like, oh, fitness is so confusing, or there was like that whole thing. It was like, oh, they lied to us with like the food pyramid and stuff like that. But the truth is, no one followed the food pyramid. No one got like 3 or 5 servings of fruits, 3 or 5 servings of vegetables. Maybe they follow the carb part of it, but no one really follows it, and it's something that we all know. Like people will be like, I don't know what to, I don't know what eat healthy. It's so confusing. But you probably know eating a bunch of chips isn't a good idea. Drinking alcohol is probably not a good idea. Overeating carbs if you barely work out is probably not a good idea. So again, not to kind of sound mean or anything like that, but let's just be honest. If you're doing these things, if you're having a lot of like junk food, processed food, and sometimes if you just cut that stuff out, you'd probably lose weight, right? You'd probably get in better shape. And I understand that can be extremely hard, but it's much easier if you follow those 3 things. It's a lot easier to cut out things like chips and cookies and sweets and ice cream, all that stuff. And you can actually have that stuff in moderation and still lose weight. Um, but if you hit your protein goals, if you have the 5 fruits and vegetables, if you drink enough water, that cutting that stuff out is a lot easier. And that's going to be like cutting that stuff out becomes more important if you're not going to track calories. If you track calories, you can put a certain amount of that in, and as long as you're getting the other stuff and you hit your calories, you can still lose weight, which is cool. And it's kind of like that's a personality thing because it could be like someone might be like, oh, I want to be able to have this stuff in my diet, still lose weight, still be healthy, and you definitely can. Other people like, I don't want to track calories, so I'd rather just cut all that stuff out. And it's just a preference thing, all right? And one's not better than the other. So that is how you're going to lose fat. And I'm going to say this. I tell clients this all the time. Your nutrition is how you burn fat, not in the gym. You can't exercise a bad diet. Our bodies are not designed to burn a lot of calories, and which is why it's really hard if you just like, hey, I'm just going to work out and try to lose weight and not fix my nutrition. It, it, I'm not saying it never works, but it really works, and it doesn't work for a long period of time. Um, so lifting weights is the number one thing that you want to do in the gym because again, in the gym, you should be going to the gym to improve your health, strengthen your bones, strengthen your muscle, all things that are super important for longevity, high quality of life, and it makes you look better. Like a lot of people like muscular looks. Like they'll see their favorite actress or celebrity, and they're like, oh, I want to look like that. But it's because those people 9 times out of 10 they strength train, right? What gives your body shape is your lean muscle mass. So if you have little lean muscle mass or you don't have much lean muscle mass, you're probably not going to like how you look even if you lose weight. If that makes sense. Which is the problem with Ozempic, and I'm not like a hater on Ozempic if that's the way you go, but it's something that it's really important that if you do Ozempic that you probably strength train because you don't want to just lose all your muscle mass too. Because again, if you probably won't like the way you look, you might look like that you're skinny, but you might not look that you don't have muscle mass in your butt or your glutes or your arms or your pecs and all that stuff. Um, so lifting is really important. So I'm gonna go over a couple training splits I tend to really like. So my favorite training split is going to be a lower upper. All right. I come from a guy like I got into training because I want to get strong, build muscle. I was a scrawny, unathletic kid. So I tend to like the splits. I tend to like lifting heavy. Um, it's really good to really hammer a body part. It's probably not the best for beginners because you probably get those beginners will get really sore doing it. But basically hitting a lower body day, upper body day, and then just repeating that. So usually with a lower body day, I like to try to hit 3 moves, some type of lunge or a single leg exercise, some type of squat, some type of hip hinge, and at the end you can do accessory work based on what your goal. So if you want to develop, if you're like I train a lot of girls, so if you want to develop your glutes, maybe do some glute isolation stuff, or if you want to like work in your abs, do your core. If you're a guy, maybe you do some extra arms. All right. Um, and then on your upper body day, it's going to be maybe 2 push exercises. So that would be any type of press movement. So a push up, a chest press, a bench press, dips, stuff like that, shoulder presses, and a couple pull movements. That could be any type of row or a chin up or a lat pull down. And same thing, you can just finish with some accessory exercises for your arms, or your arms, your shoulders, anything that you really want to develop. And then and then on the third workout, the second lower body day, you would just switch the exercises up. Same thing for the fourth upper body day. If you want to really bias your upper body, say you're a guy, you might go, or maybe that's sexist, but in general, I feel like guys want to build the upper body more and girls want to build the lower body more. So don't give me shit. So lower body, if you're a guy, you could go upper body, lower body, upper body. And girls, you could do the same thing. You could go lower body, upper body, lower body. Um, Another way is probably full body. I like full body for a lot of people. Most of my clients, especially the females, they tend to enjoy it a little more because they hit kind of everything. So like how I like to usually run it is I like to do some power stuff. The reason, and even if you're not an athlete, doing explosive stuff is really important just for general health because we lose that ability as we get older, and we want to be able to move functionally, be able to have a high quality of life. And if we don't have that fast power, it's kind of like that old person that walks very, very slow. You don't want to be walking like that, right? You want to be walking, have a good gait, be catch yourself if you're about to fall. And we at some point I like to train even if someone's like 50 years old. I want to do something fast and explosive with them, all right? And kind of keeps you young and keeps that fast switch muscle fiber in there. So then usually what we're going to do is we're going to do usually 2 lower body exercises and 2 upper body exercises. So sometimes I do this in supersets, sometimes I don't. Basically, we're going to do a quad dominant leg exercise. So that would be something like a squat or like a lunge, or if you like machines, could do a leg press. And then I would do some type of hip hinge variation. So that's usually, or a hamstring exercise. So that would be something like an RDL, a deadlift, hip thrusters, back extensions. If you're going to do isolation exercises, you can do things like leg curls. Um, and then with the upper body, I'm going to do like 1 upper body push. So that's like your press, your push up, your shoulder presses with an upper body pull. And that's going to be, again, your pulling exercises. So that'd be like some type of row or a chin up or a lat pull down. And then very similar to the other split, at the end we might just do either some accessory exercises, again, just depends what you want to develop. Maybe you're going to do some extra arms, or you do some extra butt and hamstrings. If you're trying to lose fat, maybe you're going to do like a finisher, so you can go on the air bike and do some sprints, go 10 seconds fast, 60 seconds slow, do that 5 times. And that's really how I would do the splits. Next thing I want to talk about with strength training is going to be warm-up sets and working sets. And this is super important, because if we start with working sets, is when I'm doing a working set, at the end of my set, my reps should be significantly slower than when I first start my set. And the reason for this is it should be hard. And if it's not hard, I'm not going to really change my body. Another way to think about that is you shouldn't have a bunch of reps left in the tank. So if you're doing a set of 8, the max reps that you should be able to do after the set, if you were to keep going, would be maybe like 2 to 4. So this comes to the warm-up sets. Now, if I just go right to a hard set, the chances of me getting hurt increases, right? So I need to build myself up to that resistance that allows me to do the hard set. So say for me, if I'm squatting, a hard set is like 200 pounds. I'm not going to just put 200 pounds on the bar and do my first set like that. So what I'm going to do is maybe do 2 or 3 lighter sets. I might squat with the bar for 5 reps, then add 100 pounds, do a few reps, maybe I do it 150, do a few reps, and then I go into my working sets. So by not doing warm sets, the chances of you getting injured increases. Or this happens is that say you're doing 3 working sets of 8 for your squats. The first 2 sets are basically warm sets, but you count them as your working sets, so you only get one good set in. One set that's actually going to change your body, which isn't ideal. It's better to do 2 or 3 warm-up sets and then do 2 or 3 hard sets. Now, this takes longer, which is why I'm a huge fan of not doing a bunch of exercises during your workout. But if you do that for like 3 to 5 exercises, you'll get better gains, better results than doing a bunch of exercises where you don't warm up properly, you don't really push yourself. Next thing I'm going to talk about is rest. It goes along the same lines. If you don't rest enough, strength training isn't cardio. And you should be resting for 60 to 90 seconds. If you don't feel like you need rest, you're not training hard enough. And sometimes this is normal when you first start because you're just learning how to exercise. But eventually, when you know the exercises, you should be resting properly. This allows you to go hard. And if you go harder, you'll get better results. So for example, like if you can squat 225 with a bar for 5 reps and you only rest for 30 seconds, you're probably not going to be able to do that again. But say you could do 225, you rest for 90 seconds, and you can do that across, say, like 2 to 4 sets, you're going to get much better results, right? So again, we're not trying to turn this into cardio, so rest properly in between your working sets, all right? And you can superset things, but you could still do rest. Say you're going to do a squat and a bench press. You could do squat, rest for a minute, do a bench press, and just alternate like that. And let's talk about sets. Sometimes people think you need a bunch of sets, but usually if you're doing a bunch of sets, I can probably say that you're probably not working very hard. Because if you're actually training and doing a bunch of sets, it's hard to repeat that same effort. Usually it's because people aren't lifting as hard, they're not focused as much. So when you're training properly, you don't need a ton of sets to get results, all right? And I'll see this all the time in the gym. People are on like a machine and they're on their phone, right? That's not doing anything. Or if you just can go with any exercise, if you just go like this and it's fast, again, like I said with like the working sets, if the last few sets aren't like you're probably not training hard enough. So that's how you strength train. The last thing we're going to talk about is steps or cardio. And there's nothing wrong with things like jogging or running, but it depends what your goals are. If your goal is to become a better jogger, then that's fine. If you like running, that's fine. But if you just run because you think it's good for fat loss, it's not. And which is why I like steps over cardio. If someone's main goal is just get lean. Now, if you're trying to improve your aerobic fitness, actually doing a cardio workout is going to be important. So like I train people for general fitness, fat loss, strength, but I also train jiu-jitsu guys. So if we're actually trying to improve like cardiovascular benefits, yeah, we got to do cardio sessions. But if your goal is just fat loss, steps are more important because it's easier to plan to get steps during the day. It's harder to like set up like an hour just to do cardio in the gym, especially if you're a mom and dad. It's easier to get steps in. You can walk further away from your work. You can wake up early, do a 10-minute walk. You're going to do a 10-minute walk with your kids. It's easier to get steps in versus playing cardio. And the benefit of steps is because it's just walking, it's not stressful. And this is what people don't understand about, I would just outwork my diet. The harder you train, the more stress you put on your body. The more stress you put on your body, the hungrier you get. The hungrier you get, the stronger your cravings become. So by doing steps, you're going to be able to burn a lot more calories, but they're not going to stress you out, so you're able to kind of handle it. That makes sense. You're able to keep your hunger and cravings more at bay. So if you want some numbers here, I would probably say try to get 10,000 to 15,000 steps per day. Now that might be very tough for you. So say you only getting 3,000. What I'd probably do is just start, like anything, just start tracking it, and if you can make improvements on it, you probably see better results. So say you're tracking around 3,000 a day. How about for the next 2 weeks? Can we get 4,000 a day or average, right? And maybe you can't get that much during the week, but maybe you go for some real long walks during the weekend, and that will kind of bump your average up. So those are the three ways that you can get in really great shape. All right, you're going to get leaner, you're going to build lean more muscle mass, you're going to be a capable human being, you're going to have more energy. You're going to get all those things without spending hours in the gym, because if you eat right and you only need to strength train in the gym 2 or 3 days a week, and then stay active during those days with your steps, you're golden. If you have any questions on this stuff, feel free to hit me up. I'm here to help.